all of these episodes. 2 weeks after all of these episodes, it started to rain massively, and all of our things got spoiled in the house. So imagine that aura as a child growing up. I had the English. If you had met me, you think I know how to speak very good English, but I was really struggling. So that happened. Eventually, at age 16, my parents officially left. They separated. My mom officially left the house. And at that period, it felt like, okay, that was the beginning of the downfall. I could not hold it together. There was a difference between, oh, they were always fighting, but they'll come back together. But this time around, it felt like mom is gone, dad is gone. In fact, when mom was leaving, she left with my sisters. That's two of my sisters. It was just me. And then my dad was just on his own ish. So life felt alone or lonely through that phase. It felt like that was the end. And I cannot tell you categorically some of the times that I've just felt like I should just disappear off the earth. I wasn't thinking about suicide. I just did not want to exist. I did not want to exist because it was traumatic. I went through secondary school being bullied. I was being bullied by a lot of things that I might not even be able to share. Yeah, my parents, my mom, very great person, but I felt like there was a cycle that she kept upholding. When parents speak negative into your life, when they tell you you can't do this, so forget about this. So those things had an effect on me. Now, that's just a very brief summary of like 2 decades of horror and pain that I've just briefly explained to people. And then one thing that I want to particularly highlight on is the two keywords we'll be talking about today, which is childhood and trauma. My childhood was stolen from me. And so when we say healing inner child, is because a lot of people did not get to experience all they could be or the good life, let me put it that way, as a child. So I have it written here. Like I told you, I had to do a lot of refurbishing from last night up until this point. And then so I'm going to define the childhood trauma. It is basically any significant distressing event in childhood that disrupts a child's sense of safety, stability, and trust. Safety, stability, and trust. Another major experience or incidents that, when my parents, I was at 10, which is what I'm trying to explain. At about 10, when I told you that my parents would go to Lagos, this was Abule Joko. So that place is really far from Lagos. Anybody that understands Songwater very well will understand. So at age 10, there was a time that we were robbed. So apparently, in this same house, before the roof was removed and all of that, it was just myself and my sisters at home. And then thieves came into the compound. They robbed everyone else. Then they came into our house, into our apartment. And then they're asking, this was at about 10 p.m. And they're asking, where are your parents? And I'm like, oh, they went downstairs to go and buy something. They said, the thieves said, no. We've been watching this house. We know people that came out of it and people that end. And I was like, I'm sorry for lying, sir. I was beaten that night. They beat blue black. Imagine at 10, all I was just thinking about was protecting my sisters. Our last born was just like 3 years old. The one after me was just about like 4, 5. I was like, oh, I'm sorry for lying, sir. I won't lie again. I was naked. I was wearing only pants and singlet from school that I used to play up and down. These guys, one of them brought out his, I think all of us are over 18. He brought out his dick, massaged it well, gave himself a hand job. Oh, and he just held my face in his hands like this, and he kept jerking till he finished, ejaculated all over my body, and left. That was all they did in the house that night because there was nothing he wanted to steal. It's not like we had another money. That is another one experience that has taken me years over time to walk through, to heal through. It got to a point that all of these things got to form the person I was. I needed to seek validation from people that were not my parents because it felt like the only thing my parents were. And my dad was really, they will always call me daddy's girl because my dad, bless him, very good heart. They always call him daddy's girl because I really do love my dad, you know. I'm not saying I don't love my mom, but there's a way my dad encourages me that my mom was not just there for it, you know. I constantly felt like a failure. I felt like if I was not doing something well for my mom, she wasn't appreciating it. It's either you're good. So validation only came, oh, when I cook and I cook well. Yeah, that's my daughter. Immediately anything happens, oh, in fact, straight up. There was a time I remember I stole my mom's money. And the reason I stole my mom's money was because every other person, I was in SS2 for heaven's sake. And I needed money for practical, food and nutrition practical. Anyone that's known me will know I love cooking. In fact, that killed my interest. I love cooking, I love baking and everything. And I asked my mom for practical, and she was like, Emi Olowo, I don't do this, I don't do that. And this was me that I knew my mom's business started doing well. I was counting, as at age 16, I was counting nothing less than 900K, 1 million every day because we're selling recharge cards to people in the area. The business was doing well. My mom was coordinating our job, so I knew the business was doing well. So I would count the money, 100K like this, put everything. My mom would send me to go and count the money. I will hide it. I felt like I was doing my very best to be very good. And then you're preparing for a party, but you're telling me you don't have how much was the money there? I think it was 1,200. I think so. I'm not sure. And she said she does not have the money. I said, okay, I'm not saying anything. So I stole her money, to be honest. When my mom realized I stole that money, my hands like this were tied to the window. If they say, they are beating someone blue black, but they're biology, sorry, I mean, oh God. If anybody was, if I don't know if there's a definition of pain and suffering, and probably that will probably be that description. I could not go to school because I think till now there's still a way that this eyes is affected because I was beaten to the extent that my eyes, I could see the inside of it. I could not go to school. Even when I went to school, eventually after a week, I just told them, oh, I fell from the stairs, blah, blah, blah. So every form of abuse you can think of, I've probably experienced it at one point of my life or not. So now I hope I've been able to give you a clear description of what childhood trauma looks like or might look like. So that when we are explaining that it's important to heal the inner child, you owe it to yourself that while the abuse you might have experienced is not your fault, your healing is your responsibility. You get to realize that your healing is your responsibility, that you do not owe it to anybody, you owe it to yourself. I have a daughter now, I'm grown, I have a daughter now, and there's a lot of things that I've committed to myself that can never, ever again be in that cycle. As in, I've committed to it, that form of healing. So, what keywords you need to take up? Like I said, I'm only building what's it called? I'm the forerunner, let me put it that way. So I'm only building these steps for the our trauma informed care specialists to talk about a lot of things, but I'm letting you understand that healing is your responsibility. I'm really struggling a lot to get this going. While healing is your responsibility, you get to realize that it's not your fault. It doesn't have to be your fault for you to heal. You owe it to generations to come, generations after you. Have to look back and say, this woman changed a lot for me, or this man stepped out of that cycle just so I could live. So, of course, childhood trauma, a lot of times people explain it to be physical, emotional abuse, psychological abuse. There was a time that I started growing breasts. I'm sorry if I'm being very graphic with my conversations, but I started growing breasts. Oh, somebody has asked a question I'm going to answer. It's a very interesting one, and I would like for you to wait to our Q&A. I'm very sure that Bolu is probably surprised that I'm getting to share a story because usually I get to share practical steps. I have my slide prepared to share with you, but I just felt that this meeting might take a new turn if people get to understand that these things happen and real life situations, are real. At least you can see me. So this is not AI speaking or any film trick or Nollywood movie. The kind of things I have experienced in life. If I sell it to Netflix, we'll probably shut down, road to 5 billion, and I'm going to explain something that sometimes these things alter your brain structure. You get to realize that when you've been traumatized, evil becomes a norm. Let me put it that way. The negatives, the extreme, it becomes a norm. You get to realize that detaching from people. Sometimes I see some things on Twitter, and I wish I could tell people that it's not normal. It is not. You are projecting pain and structure. See, when you don't heal from things that have hurt you or altered your brain structure, you bleed on people that do not deserve it. You bleed on people easily. And yet you get to realize that unkindness spreads and it keeps spreading. And the story just because if person A is projecting evil, nobody has hurt you. I don't know how to explain it, but let me say that if you give out unkindness, just know that it is altering the brain structure of somebody else. So, say for instance, because you are angry from home, then you get into your Uber drive and then you speak to your Uber driver anyhow, you insult them just because you are angry, you're transferring aggression. What if that Uber driver begins to feel very, very. What if that Uber driver is even a father that is struggling to feed his 4-year-old or his 3 children at home, and then you just wash him on a Monday morning at 6 a.m. You've made him feel totally useless. What if he commits suicide? You might just realize that that little effect of kindness, or that little, sorry, not kindness, that little effect of bleeding on somebody else that did not hurt you can trigger so many actions into place. So, like I said earlier, thank you, Mark Toggle, for that definition you just dropped in the comments box. I realized that I've not even defined what childhood trauma is, but I know that with my story, we've been able to come to a brief, what's it called, explanation of what childhood trauma is. So, a lot of times, effects of childhood trauma on people can be on relationships. It can be having an effect on relationships. Like I mentioned, you could just detach from people easily. It's not a flex. You are not a kind person, should not be a flex. Always guided, should not be a flex. Life is not hard. It's people that have made it so. I wish people can get to understand that life was not designed to be hard. We're not designed to struggle in life. We're not designed to. So it is all of the pain, all of the struggle, all of the trauma, all of the unsafety, instability that you've experienced most likely as a child that has come to form or shape how you see the world right now as an adult. So for me, in fact, I bled on a lot of people that I was still telling my husband today that, oh God, it took years of shedding this skin to really be the truly amazing person some of you might get to understand right now. I used to be kind of person that I don't send. If you call me, fine. If you don't call me, fine. I used to say something to my friends then when I gained admission into TASUED. I graduated from Tashuları University of Education. And then I'll tell them, it's not a big deal. You imagine people are going on holiday and then they will give you their room key because they know they will come back and meet you in school, because it felt like I didn't have anywhere to go to. It felt like I could truly just be in my space, in my atmosphere in school, because I'm like, there's nobody looking for me, Diary. And I've grown, of course, to get to appreciate community more, to get to appreciate support systems more. I never used to be like that. Even till today, I still struggle a bit to reach out to people, to connect with people. But all of these things, I began to have trust issues. I began to feel very conscious of my body. When I started growing breasts, I did not want to grow it because I've had someone touch me with that breast and he had an orgasm, maybe he ejaculated. So what would now happen if I start growing breast? When I started wrapping clothes on my body, trying to be transgender. Trying to be transgender. I did not want it. And eventually when people started sexualizing me, oh, you have figure eight, oh, he looks, I became very, very ashamed. So I'm still very conscious of my body till today. Very, very conscious of my body because I've been sexualized. I've been bullied, like I said. I've been every shade of demonic attack has happened. So some of these things get to shape how we've turned out as an adult. It gets trust issues. I've had a lot of it. It's now taking me a lot of time to trust people. Hyper independency. Oh God, I don't know anybody. I know how to repair gen because God forbid I'll call one. there are some people on Twitter, they'll call bitter feminists. They should have initiated me into their coven, or they would have initiated me into their coven, because I was of the decision that will forget men, because it even felt like relationships that I got into became toxic for me. I got into a relation. Oh God, I had a high school sweetheart. Things were not working, and I just let it go. I eventually got into a relationship in school, and then this person cheated on me and went to another, how will I put it? We were writing exams. Economic students have finished their exams, so English students were still writing exams. This guy traveled, went to another state to cheat on me, told me he was going to church, only for me to find out like 2 weeks after that he went to his side babe. So apparently I was his side chick, and that, these are things that it just keeps happening. It feels that, oh, you're bleeding at one point, and people, life, situations will keep cutting at that point. So it is your responsibility to heal. Like I have said, I'm going to answer questions that have been put in the chat box. Some of you want to know how I've gotten on with intimacy with my husband. My husband is on this call. I'm happily married. It'll be 4 years in this year. So yes, it's been a journey. It's been a journey towards healing. Now, the summary of everything I said, because it's time for me to hand over. Summary of everything I've laid out on here is: one, I want you to open your heart to learn, relearn, unlearn, and absorb every form of learning possible. Two, I want you to understand that healing is your responsibility, as I've mentioned. If you don't choose to heal, although I do understand that sometimes when people don't even know the problems they are faced with, how would they even begin the healing? Good. The first step to this healing is the fact that you're on this call. So we're going to do it all together. So, two, healing is your responsibility. Three, it is important that you are the change. Yeah, the change in what sense? See, if fire is burning this way and there are sticks, it takes, I know some of us have seen that description, it takes one matchstick to create the change. It takes one matchstick. So be the change that your generations to come will thank you for. That generations to come will find you faithful to the fact that, no, this person did something in our generation. You alter the course towards positivity. So these are the three key points I've just simply laid. I'm a forerunner tonight, like I've said. So I've just simply laid the foundation for you to understand. And then, of course, number 4, understand you're never alone. Create your support system, ask for help, therapy. We're going to unleash all of that in all of our trauma series. This is this part 2 of our trauma series. We're having 3-4 series on this. So of course, turn on your post notifications, stay connected to Mental Drive Africa. We deal with real life situations. Yeah, in fact, since I started my career in mental health and I finally got my license in psychology, I've heard stories, I've had sessions, I've been with people. I am still going on a journey with people to healing, and you get to realize that things are happening, but you have the capacity to come in charge. So all the things that might have happened before might try to be out of your control, but you have the capacity, yes, possibility, yeah, capacity, capability, yeah, that's the word I was looking for. You have the capability to get in charge. So get in control now. This is the first step. Let's enjoy the series together tonight. Do not be in a haste. Let's go ahead with this. And I'm handing over. So I'll be here to answer all of the questions. Of course, I'm going to be here to the end of the session. Drop your questions while we keep talking. If you're struggling to identify if you've been abused or if you've been traumatized or if your actions or your life is based off things that have happened to you, please do not hesitate to drop. You can send me a private. If you don't want everyone in the group chat to see your messages or check your questions, you can just click and do a private message to me. I am here to answer all of your questions. Real life, real talk, real people, real situations. So let's get the ball rolling. Over to you, Boluwatifai.
Wow, wow, wow. That is a whole lot of vulnerability. Everybody here will agree with me. I mean, it takes a certain level of strength to be able to do what you just did for us tonight. And it is really amazing. Thank you so much. Please, can we all celebrate Precious in the chat box? Let's tell her thank you so much for being so open and so vulnerable. Sharing your story takes a lot of strength to do that. And I know that there are so many people on this call that, can relate to it. Maybe not all, but at least some of the things that she has shared during the course of our story. And I know that just by being open and being vulnerable, a lot of people here tonight are getting to see that they are not alone, no matter what they may be going through, no matter what they may have gone through. There are other people that have also been there. There are other people that know exactly how you feel, and you are never alone on this journey. So can we all please celebrate Precious? Stella, thank you. Thank you for being open. Thank you for sharing your story so openly with us. We really appreciate it. And I know that many people here have begun healing already, just knowing that somebody is there that has gone through the process. Somebody is there that knows exactly what you are feeling and what you are going through. And thank you for the pointers that you have shared. Initially, we were expecting that this is going to be, a step-by-step process where you share tips and insights. But I think even the storytelling is a whole lot on its own, and it has really done so much justice to the topic that we have today. And I know that we have talked about so many things. You have also shared so many tips about how healing is your responsibility, right? So you owe it to yourself to take responsibility for your healing process. You need to heal to the future, heal forward, and begin to embrace the life that awaits you ahead. I know Precious is living a very beautiful life right now with her family, and she has been able to go through the process of healing from this experience. Thank you so much for sharing again, Precious. We are really, really grateful. And as she has rightly noted, we'll be taking questions at the end of the session tonight. We still have one more speaker who will also be speaking to us on the topic tonight, after which we will entertain questions and answers. So please stick with us. You can begin to note down your questions in the chat box, and as soon as we get to that segment, we'll attend to it one after the other. All right, so our second speaker is also right here with us. We are so excited to have her because she's also a seasoned professional when it comes to trauma, when it comes to emotional intelligence, sex education. She is the go-to person on that. So we are excited to have Omolayo Oyawoye in the room with us, as she will be sharing some valuable insights with us on the topic tonight. So please stay with us, keep an open mind, and be ready to embrace so much as she will share with us tonight. I'm going to go ahead and read our bio now, so you get a sense of the person that we have on the call. So you have a sense of who the second speaker is. And right about now, I'm going to be reading a bio right now. So we have Omolayo Oyawoye. I hope I got that pronunciation correctly. Pardon me, Ma, if I didn't really quite get the pronunciation. So Omolayo is the CEO of Light Hearts Consulting and the Cradle Schools. She holds a degree in English language from the University of Ilorin and certifications in psychological counseling, child development, emotional intelligence coaching, and trauma-informed care. She is also an applied behavior analysis technician, a professional counselor for survivors of sexual abuse, and a special education needs assistant. She's an advocate of appropriate sexuality education for children and has authored 3 books on this subject matter. She also pioneered Essence for Women, a podcast for empowering women, and the Thrive Gang, a mentorship program supporting individuals in overcoming childhood trauma. She's married to Dotun Oyawoye and blessed with adorable kids. Ladies and gentlemen, in the chat box, please let us welcome our very own Omolayo Oyawoye. You are very welcome. Please feel free to correct me on the pronunciation of your name.
That's fine. That's fine.
You're absolutely welcome.
Than the way I hear it somewhere else. So yes, my name is Omolayo Oyawoye. I'm a trauma coach, trauma therapist, and sex education expert, and I'm grateful for the privilege to speak here tonight. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me, and thank you for listening tonight. There's been a lot of tension and everything from the story we've heard can we please give a hug to Precious? Can we just send her a hug and let Precious know that we are giving her a hug? I hope you're receiving it, Precious, wherever you are. We're also grateful that you shared that with us. We're grateful that you were vulnerable enough to get deeper into all of those stuff. Thank you for being amazing. So because of that, we're going to take a break right now. I'd like all of you to grab some water. We're going to do breath work. We need to, relieve the tension before we go on, because I'm about to share more stories, right? And so I don't want to dramatize you guys by the things you're listening to. So yeah, grab a bottle of water. If you can, walk around. I wish I could walk around now. If I'm not taking this out, I've just got out taking some fresh air. Yeah, walk around if you can. Then we'll do a breath work. So this is how breath work works. You breathe in through your nose slowly and gently. You count to 5. If you were at my meeting yesterday, you already know how we do it. Then you hold your breath, count to 6, and then you exhale through your mouth slowly, like you are blowing into a balloon. You count to 8. I'll do the first one for you, and you and I will do it twice. All right? So here is how it goes. I hope you got that. Can we go together right now? Okay. So inhale slowly through your nose, count to 5 gently. Don't count through your mouth, just count under your breath. Count to 5 gently. Yes, hold your breath, count to 6. Hold it, don't breathe out yet. Great, now start exhaling from your mouth as if you're blowing into a balloon. Count to 8. You're doing well done. Yes, gently to 8, fantastic. Together we're gonna do the final one. Inhale. Great, I hope you feel better. Send me a message. Send a message to the chat box. Let me know how you feel after that breath work. So breath work is great to help you exhale and navigate it when you are experiencing any form of unpleasant feeling. Thank you, Eunice, for saying that you felt better. Yes. So anytime you're angry, you're sad, any unpleasant emotion you have, just breathe in and out and slowly, right? Slowly, yes. Thank you, Oluwagbemi, for saying you feel relaxed. When you do that slowly, it's a blood and oxygen work that is going on, so you feel less tense. Precious has made my job very easy because she's described to me almost all forms of trauma a child can go through. And I'm so sorry, Precious, that you had to go through that. So I'm also a sexual abuse survivor, but mine was digital rape. Mine was digital rape multiple times. So the kind of Precious, I hope it's okay if I keep referring to your story. I'd like to know if it's okay if I can keep referring to your story. I have like a standard example from your story, and it would greatly help us in this. All right, thank you, Precious, for permitting me to do that. What Precious went through is what we call multiple trauma. So there's a traumatic event that is single, that we could say, oh, it was just a traumatic event. It could be just sexual abuse, right? So imagine a child for instance, I grew up in a loving house. My parents were never fighting. Yeah, my dad was a yeller, but my parents never fought. They loved us, they showed us love. I was also, even though we also had financial struggles, but I was lucky that I had some stability as a child. The entire time I was with my parents, or in fact, I was with my parents until it was time to serve. Because even when I went to university, I could keep going home during weekends. Yeah. So imagine, I grew up like that, but I had sexual abuse. All right. So if it was just one sexual abuse experience, would say I had a traumatic childhood. But for Precious, right, she had multiple trauma. She went through sexual abuse. That is one traumatic event. She went through abandonment. That's another traumatic event. So imagine that there was no sexual abuse. It was just abandonment. Abandonment, and this is what we call abandonment in therapy. When a child is made to become an adult while the child is still a child. So when you meet a parentified child, a child that became a parent on time, when we talk about childhood, we are talking 0 to 17. When a child becomes a parent before they are 18, taking care of siblings, taking care of our own parents. I've had clients before that they had to be on the streets hawking to bring money home that mommy, daddy, and everybody would eat. So the child became the breadwinner, right? So that's another traumatic event. Another one was the physical assault. That's another traumatic event. Another one was, the fact that there was no stability. Another one was bullying. So that's multiple abuse. So you may not be able to relate to everything. You may say that, oh, there's one. So yes, she also had comorbidity, right? But in this case, these ones I've mentioned are traumatic events on their own. All right. So for instance, this is what we refer to as comorbidity. So for instance, because of the sexual abuse, she now got addicted to masturbation. Masturbation is comorbidity in that sense. All right. Is a result of the trauma. So yours may not be everything. Yours may just be one. If it is just one, you were traumatized. Right. Now imagine that yours was never any of this, but you lost a parent when you were a child, or you lost a sibling. It's even hard when you witness the death. Maybe it was sickness or it's an accident or something and you were there. That is a trauma on its own. Now, for a typical Nigerian, I can almost say that everybody in Nigeria is traumatized. All right? Or everyone in Africa. Our culture is traumatized, right? The African culture is traumatized because of the slavery. Right. So you see, there are levels in this trauma thing. So even when you think that, oh, everything, I had the most fantastic childhood, the fact that you live in Nigeria, the fact that Nigeria is happening to you, just, the fact that you come out to first class and there is no job, right? And then you're having to struggle, to do all of those things. I'm trying to lay this foundation because I wish that we had many more people on this call. I wish that we had many African listening to events like this, because we are just cycling the trauma, because we have normalized many traumatic events. That's why a parent would say, if you don't beat a child and yell and you are not disciplining the child well. And I'm like, it is your trauma talking. You can't find another way to discipline except you beat the child. When you don't beat the child, you are unsettled. You are just going to go like, hey, I hope I'm not spoiling this girl. No, you are not spoiling your child, right? You are raising an emotionally stable child. Someone said that the trending inheritance that you can leave for a child right now is emotional stability. When you have that's my goal as a parent right now. I want to grow up and I want to be able to evaluate my children and realize that they have no mental health issues. Maybe if you are a therapist, a psychologist, psychiatrist, right? When you sit with people on the other side, that's when you know how hugely traumatized this generation is. You see, there's a rise in drug abuse. Many of it is as a result of childhood trauma. See, when you also understand childhood trauma, it will make you be kinder to people. Because, that's what therapy did for me. I began to see people from another angle. I began to understand them better. Many of these guys that, we want to judge, we want to condemn. Now, I don't want you to get me wrong. I do not endorse drug addiction, alcoholism, and all of those things. I'm just telling you that when you see people in such addictions and behavior, it is usually beyond them. It's not a place they want to be either. There's something going on that they can't help. All right, I'm going to be back to here. So everything Precious described are examples of childhood trauma, right? I also went through sexual abuse at multiple times. So yes, my abuse was also multiple. There were 4 different times, 7, 9, 12, and I think 15 at different ages by different men, all right? Some relatives, some neighbors, some church members, right? And of course, it messed up in my head. So here is how it is. The child of a brain, the brain of a child is not fit to handle certain pressures. And our brain has different parts to it doing different things. There's a reptilian brain that we have, that there's something we call limbic system. There's there's a part of our brain that is also responsible for executive functioning. That's the prefrontal cortex, is right behind your skull. That's where you make the smart decisions. That's where your self-esteem is. That's where your confidence is. That's where compassion is. That's where all of that is. There's a brain behind your head. And Precious, please help me correct this in case I mix it up. Brain issues always confuses me. Don't mind. Right. There's the one behind our head is our emotional brain, right? It's a whole system. It's just one. It's not one. There's a part of our brain called the amygdala. It's like our security guard, the brain security guard. What that brain is meant for is to protect you in times of danger. So, for instance, you hit your leg on a chair or something. It helps you not to do that again next time. All right. So if you have a habit of hitting your leg, you find out at a point, everywhere you see a table or something, you're afraid. In fact, it feels like the table is walking towards you. Why? Because your brain is trying to tell you that, see, if you move close to that chair, you are going to hit your leg again, right? Or if you have ever been in an accident, we were in an accident once. I mean, it was a miracle. God saved my husband and I. But the last thing I saw was that the car in front of us stepped on a brake. And the brake lights will usually come up. We were behind. So I saw the brake, and there was a car on top speed that rammed into us. So we hit the car in front of us. The car in front of us was trying to get into a pothole. We were slowing down because we already saw the pothole, and we were waiting for the guy ahead of us to step in. When he stepped in and came out, before he came out, the guy behind us, I don't know, maybe he lost control. We don't know. He hit us. We hit the guy. And, I just went, thank God we both had seatbelts on. Till last year, every time I drive, and this happened about 4 or 5 years ago, every time I drove, or I'm in a car and I'm sitting in front, and the car ahead of us steps on the brake and the brake light comes up, I begin to shake. Or I hold on to, what's that thing called? That coat hanger beside the door. Why? My brain is reminding me of that. I mean, I don't remember the accident. I just realized that, in fact, even if my husband and I or anybody with me in the car, we are joking and everything, and I look forward and I see brake lights, unconsciously, I don't plan it. I just realize that I'm afraid. My brain is replaying that to say that it's about to happen again and I need to get out of the car or something. That's what happens with your amygdala. It's just there to protect you so that, a traumatic event does not keep happening to you. Now, when a child is growing and consistently goes through trauma, anyone, maybe the caregiver is consistently beating the child, consistent. I need you to mark the word consistent, right? Or you're consistently being sexually abused, or you're consistently being verbally abused, you're constantly being harassed or bullied. Your amygdala is always very active because it would always be trying to protect you from danger. So sometimes it's active, it makes you cry. Sometimes it's active, it makes you run away. Sometimes it's active, it makes you freeze. I'm going to get back to that. Now, when that has happened throughout your childhood, because you are always in one trouble or the other, one pain or the other, one trauma or the other, the part of the brain of a child that's supposed to regulate emotions, that is supposed to be responsible for self-esteem and everything, does not have any work to do. Because when you are in danger, it is the brain responsible for protecting you from pain that is working. The one you need to make decision, the one you need to do the self-esteem is not working. It doesn't have any job to do. So you grow up becoming an emotional adult. Pardon me to use that word. You grow up becoming slaves to your emotions. Why? Your emotional brain had worked for so long, it can't rest anymore. Meanwhile, the brain, that's why people who have been through trauma suffer a lot of self-esteem. It's not possible for you to have gone through trauma and not suffer self-esteem. It is not possible. You know, Precious was saying that trauma shapes affects the shape, the structure of the brain and the shape of the brain. If you see two imaging of a brain, you can tell which one was traumatized or not, of the same age. Let's say we take the imaging of 7-year-olds. One has been traumatized, one has not been traumatized. You see it in the image that there is a way the structure of the brain of the one traumatized looks and the one that hasn't. The trauma shapes your brain. Right. So you become a slave to your emotion. That's why we have narcissists. That's why we have people who struggle to manage their anger. When I meet a narcissist, I pity them. Even though if I know the people, I'm not getting that English right. This is what I'm saying. When I meet a narcissist, I pity them. But if I know their wives or their husbands, I tell them to leave. Because you can't change one. You can't change a narcissist. A narcissist is a slave to himself. He can't help himself. If he doesn't get therapy and doesn't meet Jesus, for me to use that, that's who I met that changed my life, right? He's going to be the same. Your humility, your prayers, quote and unquote, does not change a narcissist. They've got to get help, the kind of help that will help them reshape their brain. All right? See, that part of the brain that I said that protects you from danger is your brain security guard, is also part of the limbic system, your emotional brain. So many things, everything you have to do it through emotions. Somebody is not picking your call. The first thing is, oh my God, what have I done? Did I not greet them well yesterday? Do they hate me already? Do they? I don't know if you can relate. I'm going to be using very personal examples. That was me. I won't be able to sleep. Even though the reason I called them was not something serious. So it wasn't just for me. It's just me saying, I've not heard from my friend. Let me reach out to my friend. And for some reason, this person did not call me or did not respond to the call. I'm sleeping. I'm wondering, they didn't call back. They didn't even respond to message. Am I that bad? Everything that happens is about you. Your emotions just come forward. So when somebody pays you a little attention, smiles at you, compliment, when I was growing up, even way into adulthood, and you compliment me, you just make a mistake to say, look at how beautiful you are. Hey, you are not going anywhere, man. I'm gonna latch on you because that one compliment, I gotta hear it again. And you gotta be telling me all the rest of my life. So if you now make a mistake to now don't want to be my friend, that's problem. Because what? You gotta be my friend. So I will now be doing everything to make sure that this person likes me because I want to be affirmed and approved. And you now did it. You are now kind enough to say, oh, you look beautiful. You look kineka. We've got to die together, man. Now, let me give you one gist. When my first job interview ever, well, was it my first? Yeah, was it my first? I think it was my first. I was on the island. It was at Lekki. It was a dream job. Was my friend that was working in that organization and recommended me. I mean, I have fine English, so they needed somebody with all of that. And I'd done well during the interview. I'd done so well, everything they asked me, then asked the final question. In fact, I think we had done well. We were done. I was supposed to leave. And they now asked me, why do you think we should give you this job? That's where the problem began. And honestly, I didn't know this until I became a therapist, right? They said, why do you think we should give you this job? That's how I went into story. My father lost his job when he was this and that. You know, my mother is a teacher. I'm the second born. If I don't, I need this job to be able to take care of them. This, that. Why? My emotional brain for many years had taught me that to get anything done, you need to present your emotions. Everything that you need, you can get it by appealing to people's emotions. That's what my brain had taught me. So I felt like I need this job. To get the job, I need my emotions. Meanwhile, that was a wrong part of my brain to use. My executive functioning should have been the problem solving. Your executive function is also responsible for problem solving, for critical thinking. That's why many of us struggle with critical thinking. That's why when you have a huge task to do, maybe at work or a relational issue, and you are confused as to what to do, you don't know, you just want to walk away. People have been traumatized and not able to also hold down relationships because poverty laid you can't handle it. Because your brain can't do the deep thinking. Your brain can't think it through. Even though you want to, you just find out that you can't. The moment you see that, oh, I'm not feeling this thing, I'm not feeling, you check out. It's all part of trauma responses. You see, childhood trauma wreaks a lot more havoc than we know. There's a research that says that trauma can be passed from generation to generation to 14th generation. I won't stop saying that. It's alarming. They did a research on a war veteran who had trauma symptoms, especially alcoholism. And by the time they counted to the 14th generation, they realized that that symptom was found in each generation in different angle, in different shapes and forms. So it may not be the same as the first person they researched, but different shapes, including amnesia. You can't sleep. You can't rest. Some of you can't sit down watching TV, doing nothing and be okay. A voice will be loud in your head that you are wasting your life away. What are you doing? Not working. I had a client that, because growing up, he had to become a parent on time. He had to work hard for them to eat, work hard to go to school, sent himself to school, did everything. Right now he's comfortable, God's been faithful, but he can't rest. When I told him that, okay, do you have time to say, rest? What will I be doing? I'll now just sit down. I'll now be looking. He says, I can't do it. And it's not his fault. So trauma response can be in different ways. It can come up as sexual addictions. You're addicted to porn, you're addicted to masturbation. It could be trauma response. That's not the only reason people get addicted, right? But that could be trauma response. Because see, when you've been through trauma, right, there's a lot of tension in your body and you need to calm it. So you look for every opportunity and avenue to calm yourself. One is drugs. One is alcohol. Because you know that as long as I'm taking this alcohol, the thoughts in my head, the voices I'm hearing, the uncomfortable feeling will be away. So you get into alcohol, you get into drugs. All right? You get into relationships. I met a girl who said, that she doesn't suffer heartbreak. Why would she suffer heartbreak? That if somebody tells her she's not there, her boyfriend breaks her heart today or says he's not doing it again, the next available boy we will date. She's finding it difficult to live with herself. She can't enjoy her own company. There has to be a guy in love. It's a coping mechanism for trauma responses. Many of us have it. Let me tell you, many of our parents that were always sleeping in church, praying, jumping from one mountain to another mountain. Many of it is trauma response. I mean, what will I be doing if I don't pray? Oh yeah, let me go and pray. Oh yeah, this one. They said they are praying somewhere. Oh yeah, some of them that goes to church the entire week is trauma response. Because if they don't go to church, what do they be doing? And now don't get me wrong, I'm a pastor's wife, I'm a pastor as well. I know the power of praying. I know the power of retreat. But God doesn't want you coming because you can't live with yourself. God does not want you to use his presence as an excuse not to deal with your trauma. He doesn't want you doing that. Many of them can't, okay, so today, in fact, God told me this some time ago. And he told me, said, I don't want you coming to my presence because you are afraid I'm going to be mad at you. I dealt with God that way. The guilt of, I have not prayed. I missed devotion yesterday. God must be really mad. You see that guilt? You've always felt guilty all your life. When a child has always been accused and punished for everything they do, they end up being an adult who feels guilty for everything. Somebody begged you for money. You don't have. That's why you didn't give. You still feel guilty. I mean, let me know in the comment section if that's been you. You don't have, but it's not like you had. But just simply saying no. That's another thing. You can't build boundaries. Just saying no. You are guilty. Say, or maybe I should have borrowed. I used to do it. When somebody needs money from me and I can't afford it, I'll borrow it for them. I just don't want to say no to you. So it's difficult to build boundaries. You feel guilty for saying no. So I dealt with God like that. Like, oh my God, I've not prayed. Hey, God must be really mad. Guilt. So you quickly rush. In fact, I threw myself into fasting. I said, Father, I'll just start praying. One day, the Holy Spirit told me, hold on, I'm sorry if you're not a believer. I'm sorry. I hope you would pardon me. Right? And, the Holy Spirit told me, no, I don't want you coming to my presence because of guilt. I don't want you to be drawn to my presence from guilt. I want you to come to me because you love being in my presence. I was glad when they say we should go to the house of the Lord. We should approach the throne of mercy with boldness, with confidence. No, you are going to the presence of the one who loves you. The Bible says, perfect love casts out fear. It means his love for us is perfect. It's not conditional. I mean, when the Lord told me this, I was weeping. I'm like, oh my God, I didn't even know I was doing it. I don't know about you. Many of these things we do and you don't even know. I didn't know I was doing it. I just thought I was being a good believer. I just thought, oh, it's my conscience that is. No, proper response is the guilt. And God says, no, I don't want you coming to me like that. I don't want you coming feeling condemned. Many times I'll go to God with condemnation for no reason. So for an entire year, I can't remember which year. For an entire year, God's word to me was, every time I get into his presence, the first thing I hear is, now there's no condemnation to them that love the Lord. Now there's no, as in, the Holy Spirit was telling me consistently, so that when I come, I will feel less condemned. Because he's saying, why are you condemned? Why are you? It's because for many years, I'd lived in that emotions. So yes, I was saying that, please let me know, help. I'm very passionate about this topic. I can go on and on. Yeah. So yes, mine was digital rape. What do we refer to as digital rape? I was fingered mostly. All right. I came down with PID, pelvic inflammatory disease in SS3, because of the many different unclean fingers that entered my vagina for the longest of years. I hurt badly at that time. I couldn't tell anyone. And because during our days, that's why, I started knocking on churches and all of that to tell them, I want to say, don't pay me for it, but I need to sensitize parents on how to protect their children. My parents didn't know better. They did everything to give us a good life, but they didn't know better at that time. Right? So, fingers, they would tell me, all of them, lie down, remove your pants, remove clothes, and they would, I'm sorry. Can you hear me? I want to be sure you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yes, okay. We can hear you.
Okay, sorry. A call came in that I needed to. So yes, the guy that lived in our house, then our neighbor's brother. Then there's a place we used to grind pepper. There were two brothers. Every time I go to grind pepper, one of them would be grinding my pepper, the other would take me to their father's room, pull my pants and do everything. When he comes out, the other one would take turns. And the final one was a teacher in my teens church, right? He was also making me touch him. It was just all messy, right? I have a book that I wrote my story and everything. It's called The Walk to Healing, right? So all of that messed me up. My self-esteem was battered. I struggled. I thought I was never going to be able to get married. I mean, who would want to get married to me? I thought I was ugly for many years. I couldn't take my bath looking at myself. I hated my body. I thought I was ugly, right? I couldn't mix up easily. I had a horrible mood that I knew. Sometimes I would just cry and cry and cry. I mean, I had all the symptoms, but many people around me didn't recognize it. I was on I think in 2023, I was on TVC, Arise News. I was on the TV a lot that year. And some of my uncles and aunties that lived in my house started hearing my story for the first time. And they all started calling me. Who was it? Who did it? You didn't tell me. You didn't. I'm like, oh my God. So I'm the one that should come and meet you to have a conversation that nobody in this entire house, and my dad is the first of 13 children. So many of them lived in a house. Nobody had ever mentioned anything like that. I lived in fear. I almost, I mean, way deep into, I'm going to be 40 in a few months. And half of my 30s, till half of my 30s, I'm always afraid that somebody is going to punish me for something. I'm not joking. So I'm always double checking. It's funny how that even at that, I'd gotten some form of healing. I met someone who I was able to talk to, who let me know how loved I was by God and all of that. So I began some form of healing. But, you know, there's some professionalism that also needs to come into trauma healing, right? So I was always checking, somebody's going to offend, somebody's going to be offended by this. So just even ordinary harmless thoughts. So there are 3 trauma responses that you can experience when you have been traumatized. One is fight. The second is flight. The third is freeze. Fight is when something suddenly happens. You want to fight it. You want to slap people. You want to fight your way out of it. Okay, thank you. I got that. Fight your way out of it. You want to, you know, do this and do that. That's your first instinct. All right. The second trauma response is called flight. Your first instinct is to run. All right. Okay, so let me use this typical example. So you see a lot of people running towards you and shouting. Your first instinct in a fight response is to push the nearest person to you. All right? Just push them away before you start running or fight them or hit them or something. That's your first instinct. You don't know why you are hitting them. The next one is flight. Your first instinct is to join the people running to run. Even though you don't know what is chasing them, you are just running. The third response is freeze. Your first instinct is to stand still. And I always love to use the example of people who, you know, they're in the middle of the road. A car is about to hit them. And instead of them to run, they can't run. They are just standing there. So for me, one of my trauma responses, right, is freeze. So all of the time that these guys have tried to touch me, I didn't shout. I didn't fight. I only stood still. I didn't even try to say, what are you doing? I didn't even ask any questions. And for many years, I blamed myself that I was the reason for the sexual abuse. After I didn't say no, after I didn't run, I blamed myself. I carried the guilt. When I became a therapist, I realized I was a freeze response. When you are in a freeze state, your brain is not doing anything. You know, everything we do is supplied by our brain. How you lift your hand, how you do is supplied by your brain. That time your brain is on pause. You are in shock. So even if you want to run, you can't run. All right? Yeah, those people in bomb blast. You know that people died in that bomb blast for no reason. My uncle was in the bomb blast as well. Some people were just running. They didn't know where they were running into. They were running straight into the canal. It's a trauma response. That's the flight response. People are just running. You know, if you are in the right state of mind, you'll be wondering, okay, where can I run? Where can I hide? Where can I know? People were just, it's a trauma. They didn't know where they were running to. I mean, if you see people in front of you jumping into a place and not coming out, are you not supposed to turn back? No, they were running. Is a flight response. All right? Some people, when the danger has passed, they'll be calling them, come back. The dog is not running after you again. They can't stop themselves. It's a trauma response. It's a shock to your brain that says, oh yeah, pick race. All right? So when you have been through trauma, these are your responses. I know your responses help you to forgive yourself. It took me a while to forgive myself, but I did. It took me a while to accept that they actually did an injustice against me. It took me a while to accept that I didn't, it wasn't my fault. I was 7, I had no breast. I was one of the late boomers. So what were you pressing? All right. Now, I've talked about coping mechanisms. I'm going to round it off now. I just heard that my time is up. So when you've been through trauma and you know all of these things are happening, your brain will typically supply to you a way to cope. Remember your amygdala. I love that part of our brain. I love how proactive it is. But many times I have to be the one to tell my amygdala to say, you know what, calm down, I'm fine. There's no danger. So for instance, that car accident I told you about. So every time I'm in a car and I see a car stopping, maybe we're in traffic or the person is entering a photo, before I get triggered, I start telling myself, there is no danger. An accident is not about to happen. This guy needs to stop. He needs to stop because of traffic. That red light you are seeing, I'm telling you my routines when I went out before I started getting healed. I'll just tell myself, don't worry, no bad thing is about to happen. The guy is stopping because you two will have to stop. It's a conversation I have with myself. All right. So your brain will now supply coping mechanisms. I've mentioned some of it. Some of you get into alcohol. You say, I'm a social drinker. You are not social drinker in it. There's something you are running away from. You're running away from yourself. And see, there is no coping mechanism that your brain is giving you that can last your lifetime. Sometime later, it's going to expire. See, your coping mechanism won't always be wrong, or it may not be able to carry you the entire lifetime. Your coping mechanism may not be relevant to your entire lifetime. You must know what you are running away from, heal it, so that you don't get into trouble. All right? So that you don't get into trouble. You know, trauma can make you become an anxious adult, anxiety, palpitations. You're just boo, 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 boo. All right? All of those things. So you can be coping with dissociation. Precious mentioned it. You can't, you have to break. For many years, I couldn't watch a movie with a rape scene. I'm not sure I could still do that right now. I couldn't. Where there's a rape scene, sexual abuse. When I check the content and I see that, rape, kiniko, I just stop. I can't deal with it. I'll get get anxious. And there are people like that. You can't sleep in a dark room because maybe your trauma happened in a dark space. And so every time you see darkness, your brain reminds you of your brain doesn't take you to that event, but it just makes your body uncomfortable. All right. Some of you can't handle a father figure because your father was a horrible man. And so if somebody comes into your life, a man trying to be a father, care for you, you can't stand it. I had a client like that. She will always run away. If anybody shows her a little love, she will run away. She can't handle it. Right? And some people, they can only cope with the people who hurt them. That's where they want to be. That's what they like. It's a true response. So dissociation is there. Attachment issues. You are either too independent or over dependent, right? Yeah. Yelling. If you're a parent here, you see that yelling, you are yelling. That yelling that you are yelling. I don't even know what I want to say to you. That yelling. I want to beg you on behalf of your children and grandchildren, please, mommy, stop yelling. Calm down. See, the brain of your kids can't handle that noise. You are damaging them. All right? And you've got to heal so you don't break them. Yelling is a way of relieving your tension. So it's not really about them, it's about you and you don't know. I know you may want to agree with me, but it's okay. See, not being able to come up with a goal, not being able to achieve the goals, procrastination, laziness sometimes, right, could be a trauma response. What do you do? I need you to acknowledge that you have been traumatized, first of all, that this particular event in your life messed you up. I need to acknowledge your symptoms. You know, it was when I met my husband that I realized that, all right, like, no, there's something wrong. I mean, just watching him, just observing, I realized that because things that my blood would have been hot, my husband would take it easy, my husband would take it slow. I'm like, hey, How are you able to do this thing? Me too, I want to do it. I can't do it. Like, the things is getting hot. Me too, I'll be getting hot. My husband will come. Before you do 1, 2, 3, my husband has calmed everything. How? How are you able to regulate your emotion like that? So acknowledge that your symptoms are not normal. That, yeah, I have symptoms that I need to deal with. Don't legitimize it. Don't make it legal. Like, it was because he shouted at me. That's why I slapped him. I had to defend myself. You know, Precious was mentioning guarding up. My darling, it's not the time that you are going to guard up like that. You need to be able to regulate your emotions. So acknowledge your symptoms, right? Then you need to engage the voice in your head. That voice. I mean, for the rest of your life, you have to regulate that voice. That makes everything about you. That makes you want to be controlling. There are some people that they can only feel alive when they control people, when they have people under there. It's also a trauma response. You know what you are doing. That's why a wife beater will beat his wife, blue, black, blood everywhere. Now come back with flowers and beg and say, I'm sorry, I don't know what came over me. It is true. They don't know what came over them. They will beg. Just sit on the chair and cross your leg and don't sit properly. You will get another hit. You have to silence the voice in your head. All right. Now find your identity, affirm and validate yourself. Now, so not everybody has to, go through therapy to be fine, but more than 90% of people have to go through. In fact, 99% have to go through therapy. If you have to do that, I think you should do it. Some of us are benefiting. You see, it was funny that when I became a therapist, right, when I became a trauma coach, he healed me. Because all of the things that I'm learning to help my clients with, I started using it for myself and it worked. I'm going to stop now. I'll say the rest when we have questions. I'm sorry if I took extra time, but thank you all for listening to me. Over to you.
Thank you so much. It has truly been enlightening. It has really been very educative, very inspiring, just as much as the first session with Precious. Again, we want to say thank you so much for being so vulnerable with your story and for sharing with us in such a vulnerable manner. We are truly grateful for that. Please, can we all appreciate both of our speakers in the chat box? Let's say a very big thank you. You will agree with me that this session, this session has truly been one of a kind. I'm not even sure the first session we had comes close to this at all, but I'm really glad that we're able to, make something like this available to as many people as need it. And I'm so grateful that you all showed up. We are grateful that you showed up for this session. So many people take the time to register, but it's sad that not many people at the end of the day make the effort to actually show up. So making that decision to not just register, but also show up, it goes a long way in your healing journey. So you should celebrate yourselves too in the chat box. Please celebrate yourselves in the chat box. We are so excited that you got to do this session with us. So right about now, we'll taking questions and answers. We have less than 30 minutes before we end this call. So we want to entertain questions. We know that there are so many people here that may also have one or two things to share from their own experiences. That's if you are feeling up to it, of course. And you might also have questions that you would like to get across to our speakers, so you can get your answers now. You can drop your questions in the chat box, and we'll be taking it one after the other. We'll take as many as we can take before we run out of time. Thank you so much to our speakers once again. I think I saw a question earlier, which I'm going to try and look for now so we can address that. I think the person is asking, okay, the person says, how do you heal from a trauma when you discover that the person that fathered you is not your real father at 40? How do you heal from trauma when you discover that the person that fathered you is not your real father at 40? Mrs. Omolayo, would you like to take this particular question? Maybe share one or two insights on it.
Yeah. Um, I'm sending a lot of love and light, and I'm sorry that is happening. It's it's a lot to handle. I have a client who is experiencing that right now. Now there are many parts to it, okay? There are many parts to it, and the first thing you need to is that it's not your fault that all of the drama that happened. Because if you're not careful, the next thing you're going to be hearing is, well, maybe he rejected me because maybe rejected us because I do not blame yourself. The next thing is to take your time to see if this father who came in, I mean, I don't know the process for which he came in. Were you the one that found out? Was it the one that found you? Has he always been looking out for you? Take your time to know if the genuineness of this person that is just coming into your life, okay? Make a decision to, do I want to absorb this person into my life and put him in that role? Or I just want to acknowledge that, okay, yeah, you're my biological father and that's it. Because now your biological father, quote unquote, who actually is your foster father, has always been in your life, has always been a good dad, and you can't replace him, right? So you need to decide on what you want to do with that. But the other part is also asking yourself, am I willing to be vulnerable with this person, to accept all the love? One of the things you can struggle with is to accept the love that you may be giving from your biological father if he's showing it. One of the things you may also be dealing with is hatred, bitterness, and resentment. Give yourself time to let go of that, because none of that is going to help your mental health. Okay? So acknowledge that you feel that way. Acknowledge that you hate someone, or you're bitter towards someone, or you feel resentful towards someone. And see, I need you to know that your feelings are not you. The fact that you feel bitterness towards somebody does not mean you're a bitter person. And if you acknowledge that it's just a feeling, it means you can heal from it, because it is not a pleasant feeling, right? So when you acknowledge that you're able to heal from it, you don't have anything against these people, you don't have anything against him, but you want to test, can I accept the love from this person? All right. Can I be vulnerable with this person? Can we start a relationship? I mean, there are so many questions you have to ask, and there are so many decisions you have to make. But give yourself time. Take your time. There's no rush. There's no rush anywhere. Give yourself time and see how the relationship will evolve. I hope I was able to answer that a bit.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Maiwa, I hope that answers your question, at least to a very large extent. I'm going to go ahead and read the second question now. This person
I'm
is
sorry to cut you
asking.
short, Bolu.
Okay.
I'm guessing the second question will most likely come to me, but not to be too forward. It's just that after that, I had to go back to the chats right from the beginning, and I think it's only fair that I respond to a message that came in privately to me, which
Okay,
is,
definitely.
yeah. So this person says, thanks a lot for the session, it was great. My own issue is my mother. She has been my biggest problem since childhood. She's refusing to admit that she caused myself and my sisters some trauma and put us in difficult situations. I want to move on. I've resented her for so long. I've seen how the relationship affects myself and other people. I want to move on, but I feel like I still live with her. Since I still live with her, I can't do that. I don't like my mother. And I desperately want to live away from her. And I'm working on it. I just want to know how I can move from this feeling. The hatred and blame, I want to let go of all that and forgive myself and my mother and heal properly. Now, this is a very sensitive one for me, and I'll appreciate if Pastor, sorry, I call her Pastor Layo, please just accept me like that. I'll appreciate if she can create some form of balance towards the end, just in case I get overly sensitive. So the thing is, my answer to this question is one, everybody has heard of daddy issues. I grew up with mommy issues. I am very sad, even till now, myself and my mother have a very rocky relationship where she's always told me that, oh, when you become a mother, you will understand. Trust me, I've become a mother and I still do not understand. Like it just doesn't make sense. It feels that most of the things, but I've also come to understand that most of the things that she has done has come from a place of pain for her through our own childhood. So I've gotten to forgive her without her necessarily deserving it, like, or requesting for it. Till now, my mom does not feel that my mom is never wrong. It has affected my relationship. I had a very major issue with my husband in September last year that was, in fact, it rocked our boat in marriage, and it was all channeled from my mom. Like, in fact, there was a time I was gonna get married. I was gonna get married in April. Then in March, my mom called my mother-in-law and told her, "Oh, okay, so your son is getting married to my daughter. Ask your son that is he sure he wants to get married to her?" Ask him very well, because I wouldn't want a situation where I'm going to hear different. So my daughter, she's just like me. Men are naturally attracted to her. I don't want a situation whereby your son is going to hinder my daughter from getting favors from men just because. Please, in what world does it make sense for you to tell my mother-in-law that I'm not even married to their son yet? And you giving them, I can list out situations. My wedding, we were supposed to have an engagement ceremony at 8 a.m. My mother did not arrive at the venue until 1 p.m. I can give you scenarios upon scenarios upon scenarios where I just look at her and I'm like, I don't know. There's just a form of bitterness. And just like Pastor Laya said, it's not, you can feel bitter towards someone, but it's not you. So when you say you don't know how to move on from this feeling, moving on from this feeling has to start first with you getting to understand and acknowledge it is not your fault. It is not your fault your mom is wired that way. It is not your fault. She's your mom. You can't change that. You also have to look at the things you can control, the things you can change. One, how has it affected my relationship with other people? Do I find myself detaching from people just because I've experienced some? Okay, so how can I improve on that? Do I get more intentional with relationships? My kind of person, there was a time that I was in a situation where, or I was in a season of my life where my first instinct is to fight. If you offend me, I will fight you to the end. If you trigger me, I will fight you to the end. As in, when you just live in a constant cycle of fight, even till now, there are still traces of that where if I don't like you, I'll fight you. You will know. I'll block you everywhere. I'll do this, I'll do that. Because even my own mom will block me everywhere. My mom is not happy with me, she will block me. If my mom is not happy with me, she does not block me. She will post status that is talking to me. So if my own mom is doing that to me, try to imagine what I'll do to other people. Do you get that situation? So I found it normal, but right now I'm learning to mute. I'm learning to avoid sometimes, overlook things. I never used to overlook things. I will confront you. I used to grow up with the sense that you cannot beat me. If you beat me, I will beat my own back. I will die there fighting. That was the scenario I grew up with. So you have to understand that in moving away from this feeling, considering that you're even under a roof, is a very tricky one. In moving away from this feeling, you have to first of all acknowledge and understand it's not your fault. You didn't do anything wrong to deserve. You don't, it's not like you deserve, it's not like you're a terrible person to have deserved that kind of thing. So to properly heal yourself from the hatred, from the blame, you need to forgive her as well, without her necessarily asking for forgiveness. There are some places where you might not find closure. I've not found closure with my mom. I don't even think these things that I've been able to share with over 40 strangers on the net right now on Zoom. I can tell you, if I tell my mom this, I will get the blame at the end. I can tell you categorically, I will get the blame at the end. So it even make, these were instances where my mom will always tell me, oh, when you're growing up, she will say, oh, nǹkan tó máa lé ẹ kúrò nílé bàbá ẹ nìyẹn, when you're growing breast. And I think a lot of African mothers would always say, it made me feel so conscious that, oh, okay, I don't want to even go away from my daddy's house. I want to, a lot of things where she tells me, oh, lè gbélé ọkọ, oh, lè ṣe kíní kan, oh, mọ́nà dà, oh, do you understand? A lot of validation, a lot of struggle to feel wanted and all of that. You just get to realize that it's not your fault. So the resentment you feel, the bitterness, the hatred, acknowledge it's not your fault. First, that's the first step to healing. Second step to it is getting intentional. Okay, so do you want to be intentional about your healing journey? Seek help. Seek professional help. Even despite the fact living under the roof, you want to be intentional about your healing journey. Check areas you need to improve. Okay, are you the kind of person that waits for validation? Are you the kind of person that bleed on other people? Maybe you're naturally unkind in words to other people. When you just say words casually, those are things you can improve on. And I'll hand over to Patolaya if she has anything to say. But seek help. be intentional about it. You're living under a roof. You can't do anything about that feeling because every time you see her, you probably most likely, I can guarantee you because I've experienced it and I'm still experiencing it. I don't like to see my mom score because I know it is one problem or the other, to be very honest with you. But it doesn't mean that I don't honor her in my own way. I pick up calls, I send her a monthly feed, I pay her rent, I do what is expected of me as the first daughter. I show her my responsibilities, but it doesn't mean I don't water that relationship because that relationship is not watering me. So I don't expend energy on that relationship. Despite her being my mother, I acknowledge her as that, but I don't water that garden because it's not helping me flourish in any way. So over to you, Mr. Liar.
All right. I mean, you've said everything. I mean, I love listening to you, Precious. I enjoy listening to you. Right. So, I also wanted to say hi to your husband. I heard he's on the call. Thank you, Mr. Salami. That's your surname, right? Right? I got
Yes,
it.
it is.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Salami, for being an awesome husband. I always like to respect. I doff my cap for you. I give you the salute, the 3 salutes for men who get married to sexually abused survivors. You are the real MVP. Thank you for being a solid one. Right, I got that out of the way. Okay. So I could understand how this is, but this is one thing I want to beg you of. Precious said something earlier. You owe yourself that responsibility to heal, not considering the limitations and the obstacles. You owe your children, your unborn kids. I'm guessing that since you're with your parents, you're not married and you don't have kids yet. It's a great place to be. You owe your children to break that cycle by healing, because trust me, it will continue. You see this thing your mom is doing to you that irks you, you will do it to your kids if you don't heal. And you won't do it deliberately. It's not something you just walk in and say, you won't know you are doing it. I know someone who once told me, he saw how his father beat his mom and he promised he would never beat his wife, that he hated his father for that because he watched his mom suffer. 2 years into his marriage, he beat his wife. He didn't even know when it happened. It was when he came into a meeting with us that we reminded him of that statement. You won't know. It's just a cycle. So you are going to decide that whether I'm under a roof or not, I will heal from this woman. See, don't expect any change from her. Don't wait around that, she will catch it. She won't catch nada. She won't understand it. Precious as it. If all these things she told her that our hearts are melting, I was saying, give her, her mom is saying, you can't. And why? Someone has said it. Her mom is also projecting. Her mom didn't heal and projecting on her. I decided if I don't want to heal for anything, fortunately for me, I'm blessed with 3 girls. I don't have a choice. These girls must know a better life emotionally. So make up your mind that I'm going to heal even right in front of this woman. It may take you time to forgive her, but letting go of those emotions is all up to you. I'm going to give you a few tips. Every time you maybe see her call, she's coming in, she's calling your name, breathe. Do your breath work. Breathe in and out. These are techniques I teach my clients. Do your breath work. Before you have conversations with her, maybe she even bumps into your room talking to you, do your breath work. See, stop. Precious said, stop watering that garden. Stop waiting for her to acknowledge that she traumatized you. It's a waste of your emotions. Don't do that. All of that energy, focus it on healing your heart. So while she's talking to you, calling you names, yelling and everything, be breathing in and out. Be breathing in and out. When she's done, turn to the mirror and remind yourself that you are not defined by everything she's saying. All right? You are not defined by everything she's saying. That is not who you are. The names she's calling you is not who you are. All right? Yes, I understand you, doctor. I just read from, okay. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. But we're saying that right now she can't leave that place. She can't leave that place. So we are teaching her the coping mechanism until she's able to leave. All right, yes, I get it. How does she properly heal while she's still experiencing trigger? Right, so while she's still there, I mean, right now, there's nowhere she's going. I'm sure that if you have the money to rent an apartment, you have a friend to go to, you would have done that. It looks to me like, I mean, I don't know the age of this person, maybe a young person. It looks to me like you are stuck with your mom. So what we can do right now is to give you the coping mechanism on how to cope under her roof until it's time to leave. All right? So this coping mechanism will now help you handle the triggers. And that's what I'm saying, that the moment you see her coming, you know that this person coming will trigger me. What can I do? Your guard up is to do your breath work, is to splash some cold water on your face, that something is coming, and before it hits me, I'm ready. That's what we are saying. All right. So turn to the mirror and affirm yourself. I am not defined by what she said. I am not who she has called me. My future is not defined by, I mean, look at everything Precious has said. Somebody else would have heard everything Precious mommy has said and say, I'm not getting married. They could say, I cannot live in my husband's house. Let me come and no marry. Because if you hold on to every word spoken to you, you absorb it into your heart, you would eventually become the words you've been spoken, the words I've spoken to you. All right. Then every opportunity you have to leave the house, maybe it's a holiday, maybe it's a get out. Get out. If you have an opportunity to stay somewhere for 3 weeks, go there. If you have an opportunity to learn a skill that takes you out of the, take it, even if it is a skill you don't want. That change of environment is fantastic to heal you. Do you understand me? So while you are there, choose that I'm not going to keep, sinking into the names that have been called, sinking into this atmosphere. You can choose to change that atmosphere yourself. Play music. One of the trainings I had, talks about reenacting the part of childhood that was good. All right. One of it is to listen to me. One of the things I do is to listen to old school music that made my childhood interesting. So I just turn it on. When I'm in a bad mood, something is happening like that. That could also help you. Get in touch with nature. Take a walk where there are lots of greeneries, trees and everything. Just do everything daily that helps drop the tension. So that when you get back in, right, and mommy begins again, you are ready to take it, like, okay, bring it on. When there's been a pile, that's when you burst. But when there's been a pile, you go out, you unbody, you come back in, you're able to cope until you have the opportunity to get out. When you have the opportunity to get out, sweetheart, please do. And it doesn't mean you should get into a wrong relationship. That's something I wanted to mention. When you've been through trauma, you're likely to attract somebody who was been traumatized. You are not reading safety cues properly. That's why somebody will be dating somebody that batters them physically, and they'll be telling her, leave this boy, he's always beating you. And the girl is defending the boy. He's misreading safety cues. He's not seeing it. You are the one seeing it because you are not the one being beaten. Do you understand me? So don't because of the pressure of mom, go and date a boy that will mess you up. No, you have to also be open-eyed enough to know that, okay, this, I'm not also getting into this, right? But you need coping mechanism in between. I'm going to also suggest therapy for you if you can afford it, just somewhere to because if you have stuff you can talk about that happen daily, all right, it also helps you. The therapist will be able to guide you with specific things that you can do on a routine level, right? That helps you cope till it's time. All right. Yeah. I hope that helps.
All right. Thank you so much, ma'am. I hope that helps, and I hope that answers the person's questions as well. I think we have time to take 1 or 2 more questions, although we are quickly running out of time, but I know that tonight's conversation has been totally worth it. It has been totally worth it. And I know I speak for many people in this room, if not all, if I say that this session has actually been worth, the time that we have spent. Precious, I would like you to address this question, considering your story on multiple traumas. The person is asking, how do I stop overthinking? I think too much from past traumas and it is affecting my marriage. So I would like you to address this particular person's question. Over to you, Precious.
Okay. I think it's worthy of note for me to mention that I'm going to be married for 4 years this year. So I'm doing fine. And overthinking affecting your marriage. There was a time I told someone that there's a difference between overthinking and deep thinking. There's a point in your life where you will think deep, think back, and think clearly about everything you've gone through. Then when you begin to overanalyze it, that is when you're probably feeling like, oh, this is my fault. Oh, if I had not been in there, if I had not, okay, let me take for instance on my story, right? So there was a point in my life where I felt like, ah, if I don't have this body, am I in control of the body? Or if I didn't have this shape, or oh, okay, if I didn't wear this kind of pants, maybe. There are still some certain colors of panties that I don't like to wear because it triggers me a lot. You know. So when you say you're overthinking and it's affecting your marriage, it's because you're not coming to the fact that, or you're not coming to term to understand that things that happened were beyond your control. And just like I said, one of the effects of childhood trauma is anxiety, where you're anxious for future events, based off past events. So when you're dwelling on past events and you're beginning to think it too much, you're beginning to overnight, you're beginning to give flesh to things that necessarily do not need flesh for. Like, no, it's because you've not acknowledged the fact that you were not in control. Because if you were in control, then, oh, okay, then we could blame you. But have you asked yourself, what could I have done? It's just like when you go online and you see people talking about rape situations that, oh, maybe it's because of what the person wore. But we've had rape situations where it's not about what the person wore. In fact, from head to toe, the person is covered and they just encounter that unfortunate circumstance. So I think if it is beginning to affect your marriage, that's because it has affected your person, because we always bring our individuality into the marriage. Am I correct? So if beginning to affect your marriage on the whole, it's because you are still struggling with it as a person. You need to sit yourself down. Tell yourself, see, we might think that a word of affirmation might sound like a cliche, but it really works. It really works in rewiring our human mind. Sit yourself down. Keep telling yourself till you believe that it's not my fault. I did not I'm not a terrible person. It's not because I'm terrible that I deserved it. When you keep telling yourself those kind of scenarios, those are things that help to reshape what you're experiencing as a person. Because like I said, you will continue to bleed on people that did not hurt you. You bleed on your husband, you bleed on your children, or you bleed on your partner, basically. So you have to get the necessary help needed to overcome that phase. But if you feel like you're overthinking, make sure that overthinking is not triggered by shame, it's not triggered by guilt. Make sure that your overthinking is rather channeled as deep thinking of, okay, what could I do better? If that makes sense. So be careful to not let it bleed on people that do not deserve it, or be careful to not bleed on people who have not hurt you. That's transference of pain, transference of aggression, and that's the trauma cycle continuing. So do not avoid giving credit to, or avoid giving credibility to that cycle of trauma. Don't do okay, we're going on a cycle. Oh, because I've been hurt, I must hurt others. No. So call yourself to reasoning. Sit, choose, decide, acknowledge, ask the necessary questions, and then seek necessary help. In situations like this, going for therapy. That's just the best bet. Going for therapy. And Mental Drive Africa is gradually opening up to be middlemen for people who are looking for affordable and quality access to mental health care. That covers therapy and everything that comes with it, counseling sessions and the likes. So you can reach out to us. We can link you with people, within your pocket range. So do not think that therapy is expensive. There are people out there who are doing pro bono therapy services. I, for one, I do pro bono therapy services, at least one person a month. So there are people out there who would like to talk to you, because I've come to realize that Africans, especially Nigerians, we've come to have a mentality that therapy is expensive, or you've come to have a mentality or a mindset that, what do I want to talk about? Trust me, when you go in for therapy, don't put on too much pressure on what do I want to talk about, or I don't have anything to say, or where will I begin? trained mental health personnel or therapists or counselors or whatever the name or whatever the what's it called, whatever the situation may be, we know how to get talking. All you have to do is be sure you're ready for this. So forget about the cost. Of course, think about it, but don't let that be an hindrance. I hope I was able to answer that question very well. Okay, I think Eunice. Okay, so you sent me your question privately. That's it. I think, well, you can answer the question. So you sent me your question privately, and I think I just responded. So you might have missed that while you got off the call. So your question was talking about sexual abuse. I'm trying to find it again because I responded. Okay, I'm trying to find your question again because I responded privately. So your question was on sexual abuse, if I'm correct. You can also type it out again if that's okay with you. That you got fingered in front of your parents and they were not even aware. So it's not like in front of them that way, but someone was sexually abusing you while your parents were there and they were not aware. Is that it? Trying to find it. It was a private question and I tried to respond privately just to save time.
Okay, sorry, while you're there, I just wanted to chip in for the
Okay.
last question, right?
Thank you.
About the person who what's that question again? Overthinking, yeah. So one of the things I also suggest to my clients is the present moment awareness technique. One of the ways you should not overthink is to ask yourself, because see, when you overthink, you put a lot of pressure on your brain, all right? You stretch your brain, and you don't want to do that because then you're going to get anxious and fearful. But when you use present moment awareness, it helps you live in the now. Overthinking also transports you either behind or forward. You are missing out on living in the now. You are not living in the now. Okay. So present moment awareness is what is good about this moment. Just ask yourself that question out of the blues. What is good about the moment? I want to think about what is good about the moment. What that does to you is it now helps your mind to start shopping. What's good about this moment actually? Okay, I'm alive. Oh, that's good about the moment. I'm in health. Wow, that's good about the moment. My husband is supportive. Okay, well, we have food. It just helps you. Present moment awareness helps you to live in now and helps you to be grateful. Those two helps you from overthinking, which can. And see, when you overthink, you don't find solutions in overthinking. It's when you're calm that you're able to find solutions to what is making you overthink. So overthinking does not produce any result. So remember, present moment awareness. What is good about the moment? Ask that question, and that will help you live at the moment.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for chipping that in. All right, go ahead, Precious.
So yeah, I found the question now, and I'm gonna be directing it over to Pastor Layo. Oh God, I'm so sorry. The African child in me, I don't know how to call her.
Stop calling me Pastor Layo. Be careful. My name is Omolayo Oyawe.
I'm gonna try. His home training. His home training is so much. Okay, so the private message I got from Eunice is she wants to confirm if it was sexual abuse. Her story was while she was probably around 5 years of age, she was fingered on a private part in front of her parent, but she does not think they were aware. So whenever she's in that position, I think she's married now, I'm assuming, please correct me if not. So whenever she's in that position, it reminds her of that experience. And she also had sex with one of the neighbor's children when he asked her to bring lantern and, just childhood things. Yeah. So I think her question is, one, she wants to know if that was even sexual abuse. Like this was around 5 years and her parents were not, she's not even sure if her parents were aware. I think awareness should be spoken about where being conscious, but let's talk. So in that position, it reminds her, it's a trigger. And I actually have something close to that because there are some sexual actions that I'm just getting to unleash in my marriage, basically, because it just used to be a trigger for me. So those are two things to note. One, if she wants to know if it was sexual abuse. Two, it was a private part and she's not sure if her parents were aware. And three, that started building up towards her experience to the point that she had sex with one of the neighbor's children at a very young age.
Okay, yes, that's sexual abuse. Like I said, it was the same thing that I experienced, and it is called digital rape. That's the legal term. That's the technical term for when a child is. Let me define sexual abuse for you. Sexual abuse is anything involving a minor, right? I mean, it could happen with adults, right? But we're talking about childhood today, right? So involving a minor, when you touch them private, you touch them in their private parts without their consent, when you make them watch you strip. Remember what I said, you ask a child to watch you remove your clothes, and you are the adult. You make them, you introduce them to porn. Introducing a child to porn is sexual abuse. You are abusing that child sexually. All right? When you make them touch you in your private, that is also sexual abuse. There was a skit in this country last year. This guy was just, I mean, one of these comedian skit makers brought in a 12-year-old to be talking about the fact that she saw him having his bath. So the girl, so he was in the skit. It went viral. The guy was jailed in this country. I can mention his name, right? It was in the papers and everything. In the skit, he was telling the girl, oh, so you saw it. Was he big? Was he long? Was he fair? Was he black? You know, so everybody knew that he was. And the girl was saying, no, I didn't see it. He thought he was making jokes. No, because it was sexual abuse, was sexualizing the girl, bringing a girl out in the public, talking about your private part, even if it was jokes. It's crazy. So he went to jail for it. So yes, even if you were 8 days old and a guy fingers you like that, it's also sexual abuse. And see, your parents know your knowing has nothing to do with this. It was sexual abuse. And when a child has been sexually abused, especially early, they get sexually active on time. So, right, getting involved with your neighbor's son and all of that, that was not your fault. That was not your fault either. You were exposed and you just followed through. I mean, you didn't know what you were doing. Right. There was one story I heard, and this one happened with, I mean, I think she was 17 or so. And I was saying on my blog, on my page some time ago, there's something called sexual manipulation. Many teenagers are being sexually manipulated. All right. You come into their lives with the intention to actually get intimate, but you come becoming nice. You give gifts, you shower affirmations, you do everything. You let the girl's guard to be, and the girl has been lacking affirmation, or the guy has been lacking affirmation. By the time you ask for sex, it's difficult to say no. Because, I mean, this, yes, is getting groomed. Because this girl, you've done everything for her emotionally that nobody has. She will go ahead. Now, this type of girl will become an adult and be guilty and say it was consensual. Say that, but it was consensual. The guy asked me, so you were on that guilt for so many years that they asked me and I said it was sexual manipulation. So even if that happens, is a spectrum of sexual abuse. So yes, you were sexually abused, and that's why it's affecting you in your marriage. See, mine was digital rape as well, and it did affect us sexually. If I had to write a book about it recently, I have a book on it, Hidden Fantasies. You won't know. So mine was worse because I was circumcised as well. So sex when we got married was horrible, even though I was looking for it. You know, mine wasn't rape, right? So I was some type of virgin, if you understand what I'm saying. So I was looking forward to sex. Like, this sex that we have not done. I got married at 25. This sex that I have not done. Where we get married like this, we are going to do it. I'm going to show my husband Pepe. Kinika. My darling, when it began to happen, it was horrible. I didn't see it coming. Pain. And then because I was circumcised, again, have we been able to confirm that everybody on this call is over 18, right? Yeah, because some things are getting deeper. So because I was circumcised, sexual arousal was painful. I would get sexually aroused, but very painful. All right. So, and he needed to relax me and all of that. And so when he tries to use his fingers, that's where the problem starts. My body would just stiff. And I'm not doing it deliberately. I'm not doing it deliberately. I'll just stiffen up. And he'll be saying, relax, calm down. I'm saying, no, I'm relaxing. No, you are not. I'm relaxed. No, you are not. What has happened? Remember that part of our brain I told you about? The amygdala is the one trying to protect, right? Say, see, these are things they did for you many years ago. It's about to happen now. Not knowing that no, it's not happening. This is a guy I love that loves me and I'm legally having sex. So we struggled. And I mean, my husband is one of, most amazing person on the surface of the earth. So when that happens, he leaves. So he'll keep leaving me. I'll keep begging, don't leave me. He said, no, I don't like the way I'm. Please don't. I mean, it got so bad. I had to take him to one of our mentors. Like, this guy doesn't want to touch me. I said, I can't bear the pain you feel every time we have sex. All right. So we had to go through some form of, counseling and everything. Now we have amazing sex. And I can tell you that this is 14 years running, right? We have amazing sex. So it is normal that this can be affecting you. You may have to get help, right? Actually, both of you. Do you understand me? And see, there are things that will happen in sex that you never know can trigger you. I had a daughter, a spiritual daughter like that. I had prepared her, like, see, because she also went through sexual abuse. When you get married, she was preparing for a wedding. So I was trying to prepare her for a wedding. I had prepared everything. This can happen. You can be triggered. These are the things you will. You see, what eventually triggered her? She didn't see it coming. She said everything had gone well, gone fine. The foreplay was great. The sex itself was great. Everything was fine until they both got into the bathroom to have a bath. I mean, it was their first night together. And just getting into the bathroom and smelling sperm triggered her. So she began to cry. So she broke down crying because that was exactly what happened during her abuse. Her abuser will now take her into the bathroom and wash away the sperm. So the smell of the sperm brought back the memories. She said she broke down crying. And because of that, her husband didn't want to touch her again because the man felt like, I thought we just had a nice time. Did this? So the man is afraid. So there are so many things that happen to you sexually when you have been sexually abused. And so, yes, you would need to get help. Both of you would need to get help. I hope your husband is as supportive of my husband and Precious's husband, right? Both of you would need to get help. I hope that helps.
Thank you so much. I really hope that has answered your question. This has really been a wholesome conversation. I mean, both of our speakers have been really open tonight. I mean, no hiding of anything. And you will agree with me that tonight's conversation is just one of those very open ones, very vulnerable. And I hope that you have gotten so much from all that has been shared tonight. I hope that you will take the lessons, the knowledge, and the strategies that have been shared and begin to implement them in your own journey as well, because that is the essence of why we are here. Knowledge is a waste if you do not act on it. So what are the things that you are going to begin to do from today so that you can also begin to heal, like both of our speakers have shared? Speaking of sexual manipulation, and this is the last question I will take very quickly because we are sort of out of time. Omolai, I would really like you to address it just briefly on sexual manipulation. How does one notice these symptoms and how can they stay assertive, through these symptoms?
All right. The symptoms of sexual manipulation can be easy if you're alert, right? When somebody suddenly shows up in your life and they are all lovey-dovey, showering you with gifts, showering you with all the attention, of course you'll be enjoying it. You are going to be the one to be alert enough to say, I think I'm enjoying this and I'm not sure of this guy's intention. So when you see that, it's time to build your boundaries. Building your boundaries, say that. And when we are with friends with someone, you should still have boundaries. The fact that you're friends doesn't mean you should just lay down your guard, quote and unquote, like that. All right? Build boundaries that lets you see through this guy. See, when somebody is out to sexually manipulate you and they see that you are building boundaries, they don't last. They leave. You just find out that they are not around anymore. That's your sign that this person has seen that, okay, my plan is not working here. Let me go somewhere else. All right? So give it time. Especially if you are now is looking like, okay, I think I'm falling in love for this person. That's the time to give it time. So just let them go away, you to go away. Okay? So when you see that, okay, this attention is becoming too much, they will shower, and then you are just knowing each other, and then they are becoming personal. All right? They are becoming personal. They are talking about your body or how beautiful you look. What are you wearing? You already know that there's some place these people are. All right? When they're already trying to get into they are not saying they want to have sex with you, but they are sexualizing you. You already know that that's the problem. All right? So yeah, run away. Being assertive means that you are able to insist on what you want, even if the person doesn't want to budge. and you won't budge it. All right? But you need to be self-aware enough to know that you are falling for someone and that you are enjoying somebody's attention. You need to be self-aware enough to know, because sometimes you just get carried away because who doesn't want to be enjoy attention, especially if you don't have anybody in your life who's giving that to you. All right. So yes, I hope that helps.
It does help. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much. I'm super grateful for sharing your valuable insights. Thank you. I hope that answers your question. Ladies and gentlemen, we are gradually wrapping up. In just a few minutes, we'll be out of this call, but I really know that I speak for everyone when I say that tonight's conversation was absolutely worth it. And if you agree with me, please let me know in the chat box on a scale of 1 to 10, how much you valued tonight's conversation, valued tonight's session. Let's see it in the chat box, and let's also send our appreciation to both of our speakers tonight. Wow, 8, 10, 1000%. Thank you very much. All right, so there's a feedback form that is being shared in the chat box because at Mental Drive Africa, we want to make sure that we serve you better at every step of the way. So please kindly fill the feedback form. We'd love to hear from you about tonight's session. Tell us what you took from tonight's session. Tell us how it was for you, what you learned, and just, drop a review so that we can be encouraged to keep bringing more insightful sessions like this. And I know somebody was asking earlier about the next session. So definitely, we'll be having another session. This is Trauma Series Part 2, and we are going to Part 3. So in the next couple of weeks, we'll be making plans how to hold the final session on trauma, which is going to be on emotional trauma, by the way. And trust us, we're also going to be bringing in seasoned mental health experts, people that will do justice to that particular topic. So you can count on us on that. And you can stay in touch with us by following us on our social media platforms so that you can get to know once we start publicizing, and you'll be the first person to know, and you can register. Somebody says it has been the best 2 hours of my day. Wow, thank you so much. We are glad that you were able to join us. Thank you so much. Mayoga says talking about heartbreaks and sex next. Absolutely, we are going to be going all in when it comes to emotional trauma. So stay in touch with us. Follow us. We're on Instagram and LinkedIn at Mental Drive Africa. We're also on TikTok at Mental Drive Africa. And you'll find us on X or Twitter at MD_Africa_. So please do stay in touch. Please fill the feedback form as well so we can hear from you. You can also follow our speakers on their social media pages so that you can get to know more about them, some of the things that they have planned out, in case you can come across opportunities that you might benefit from. So just search them out on Instagram, on LinkedIn, and you can connect with them as well. I'm going to hand over to my Oga Precious in case you have 1 or 2 things to say tonight, just to wrap up the conversation before we leave here tonight. Over to you.
Okay, so hi everyone. I don't know if it's doing Oga Precious. Anyways, thank you, Bolu. Bolu is our community manager at Mental Drive Africa. I know she didn't get to read her own profile, but she's been the powerhouse behind all of the events, all of the social media handles we've been saying. So yes, a round of applause for Bolu too in the comment section. She's been one. If you've been seeing our mails in your dream, it's because Bolu is pushing it out. We've been in your face, it's because Bolu has been doing our job. So thank you very much, Bolu. And yes, I'd like to thank everyone who took out time to be a part of this today. Like I said, so because something is broken doesn't mean beauty can grow out of it. Mental Drive Africa is that birth from my healing journey. I realized that a lot of people needed to heal, and it's better that people do not feel alone. And that's what started the community. That is what has brought us all together. Every form of life is important to us. And we look forward to serving you continuously at Mental Drive Africa. We'll also be launching our community soon. Oh, you're talking about the recording. See, let me give you guys a secret. The first recording, Bolu is still trying to figure out how to download it. So hopefully the second one, we'll have it out as soon as possible. It should also be the launch of our YouTube channel. So do well to subscribe to our YouTube channel. When it launches, we'll notify you as well. And do let us know if you'd be interested in going beyond being, just a partaker If you'd like to be on our publicity team, pushing this out to people that will need it, you just realize that one or two people, a lot of people might be seeing my Instagram, might be following me on Instagram and not even realize all the things I've been through in life, But you just get to realize that there is one person around you that will definitely need something to change or alter the course of their lives, So you could be the channel, just a single repost, a retweet, share on your story. It can go a long way for someone else. I just cannot know how far that can be. So thank you also for being a part of this tonight. And I'd like to say thank you so much to my mama. Omalayo Oyawe. I whispered her name because I don't know how to say it without pastor in front of it. But anyways, thank you so much, Ma, for eating to our call. We truly, truly appreciate this. And I do hope that every one of us has picked up one form of value or the other. And now the last person I'd like to say thank you to is my husband, of course, who has given me the wings to fly. I'm always telling you about the subscription, the this, the that. And in fact, he's been truly an amazing person to me. No relationship has been perfect. So I'm not trying to portray that my life is perfect to you. I'm not saying that, oh, I've healed up all these years and, oh, I live a very perfect life. Trust me, no. It's as rocky as it comes. But one thing stays genuine. I am very truthful and intentional about my healing journey. I'm protecting my peace, protecting my boundaries. I am focused on what's important. I always tell people I major on the major. I see the minor, I put it in the background. The noise is not important to me, So thank you one more time. And I do hope that going forward, you stay true to yourself. You choose you flourish with you water your own garden because it's important you do you first. When you blossom, everybody can benefit from it. So till next time, I'm signing out on behalf of everyone. Thank you to the amazing
Thank you.
team that keeps pushing this to love and celebrate you all greatly. Thank you, everyone. Do have a good night. Bye.
Bye, everyone. Have a wonderful week ahead. Thank you so much for joining.